Hey there folks, today I'd like to take a casual peek into the Masters of the Universe Classics King Hssss action figure set from Mattel. This set is a Matty Collector Club Eternia subscription item for the month of March of 2011. And this set also saw a 2-day day of sale release, both in March and in April. And it was split into 2 days because there was some sort of delay in shipment through Mattel, and they only had a limited quantity in March. And I can't remember when of the 2 days that I purchased this because I did not have a subscription at the time, and I'm gonna guess that I probably purchased this in April just due to the small quantity they had in March. And I'm not sure how much I paid for it at the time. I think it might have been about $22 in March and April of 2011. I'm not sure. Taking a look at King Hssss in the packaging here, you can see the leader of the Snake Men there. Very nice looking figure, and actually comes with a few accessories you can see behind the figure, as well as down below there. And King Hssss is in this typical Masters of the Universe Classics packaging style, which is pretty nice, but it does have a sticker here for the Snake Men, I guess you can call it faction, of which he is a member of, or probably the leader of, I should say. And you can see the labeling here for King Hssss, the dreadful disguised leader of the Snake Men, which is pretty cool. Here we have the back of the packaging, and at the top you have that typical roster of related characters, and in this case related to the King Hssss storyline down below. But we have Hordak, Skeletor, of course King Hssss, He-Man, King Grayskull, and Zodak. And down here we do have the biography for King Hssss, whose real name is Hiss of the Viper House. Now we'll be right back and have King Hssss out of the packaging. Okay, we're back and we have King Hssss out of the packaging. There are a few accessories that are included with the figure, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at those first, starting out with the snake staff. And it seems most members of the Snake Men faction come included with this staff, or a variation of this staff. And it's pretty cool, and this particular staff is colored green, and you can see the snake that winds throughout the staff here. And it's actually quite nice, and you can see some painted detail along the back of the snake there, and this is a darker green, I should say a metallic green paint on there on these diamond patterns. It's actually quite neat on there. And the snake itself has what looks like a glitter type paint of green. It's hard to see on the video, but it's there if you see it in person. As well as the staff itself, it has a darker shade of green with that glitter like a application of paint on there. Very cool. And you can see the top of the staff is a rounded ball on there, and the foot of the staff has this rounded piece here, or circular piece there. Very cool. And you can see the end of the snake has a rattle, so I guess this is a rattlesnake of some sort. You can see the details on the head of the snake there. You got some nice green paint on the eyes, darker green, much like the diamond patterns here. The fangs are unpainted, or at least I should say they're the same color as the snake itself. So, very neat. One of the issues I do have with the staff is there's very little room for King Hssss to get a secure grip on, just due to the snake winding throughout the staff here. They're really only solid place that King Hssss can grasp this staff is at this point here, where there's enough clearance for the hand to grip the staff. But anywhere else, like right here, it's just very narrow clearance, and it's very hard for King Hssss to grab a hold of. You can possibly grip it over here at the top, but really the only solid place is about 3/4 of the way up right there. But still a very nice looking accessory here for King Hssss. Next accessory we have is the shield, which is pretty cool. It's in red plastic here, and you have a snake here sculpted onto the shield, and there is some paint detail primarily on the underside of the snake, and also on the diamond pattern there on the back. It's a little bit I'm not sure if you could say deeper red paint on there, but it's kind of cool. But you can see also here there's an orb that's sculpted into the shield, and that's got the same paint application as the portion of the snake here that's painted. And it's a very nice sculpt. I really like it. And then you have some nice pattern along the shield, the edges of the shield there. It's very cool. And nice to have these two prongs at the bottom of the shield to resemble snake fangs. So that's kind of neat. The back of the shield here has a clip that you can clip onto the wrist or forearm of King Hssss. It's got a nice solid grip, even at the narrowest part of the arm, which is at the wrist. And you can see it just clips right on, and is actually a very secure, nice tight hold on there. So that's kind of cool. Now the next accessory is really not an accessory, but more of an alternate body part. I guess this is the true form of King Hssss, at least his upper torso, which is very interesting. It's made of a softer rubberized plastic here throughout, even on the head and the lower jaw here. All of it pretty much a very much softer plastic compared to the figure. And I guess the only really solid plastic part is here at the peg, where you connect this onto King Hssss figure. But the rest is very rubbery like material. It is a little thicker here at the base of this neck of the main head of the snake. And what's kind of cool is the main head of the snake has an articulated jaw, but you really have to work on it to get it to move, because it's very soft plastic and is a bit stiff on the hinge joint there. So you really have to work on opening and closing it, because if you just move it at the tip of the jaw, you can see how it bends on there when you move it up and down. But very nice paint detail on that main head there. You got the eyes painted in red, fangs in white, and the inner mouth area here in this dark pinkish color. Very cool. And you have here, I guess what would be the arms. You got two snakes here that are actually posable. There's a bendy wire within the snake itself. I'm going to call them snake arms. But they are posable. You can bend them. I wouldn't bend them too roughly. I'd be careful just so you don't tear any of the plastic, since it is made of a softer rubberized plastic. You can see some air holes right there for the articulation of the bendy wire within. But you can bend it however you want to shape it on there. You can twist it, turn it, and however you please on there within the limits of the bendy wire. So, which is cool. So very neat. So you can get a lot of variety of poses with this alternate body part. Now these particular two snake heads here are very short, very close to the base, and it's partially glued to the bendy snake here. So you really can't pose it too much, but you can move it and it'll just fling back into place due to the rubbery nature of those snakes. But you can see it's got some painted detail as well at the eyes, and I believe right here in the eyes as well. So very neat. on here, and he's got this nice sculpt with the scaly like snake pattern there. Very cool. And you can see it here as well. Underneath is painted a different color, very glossy finish there on the underside of the snake. On all of them actually. Very cool on here. And we'll go ahead and attach this onto King Hssss as soon as we take a look at the figure. And speaking of the figure, we have King Hssss here, which I actually do like. I like it, the sculpt very much. Now King Hssss does have a few issues, all of them QC related. One of them I believe is a widespread QC problem, while the rest are I think related just to my figure alone. And just to get through these QC problems, the first one I've read is a widespread problem is the reversed shoulders on this King Hssss. I believe they were placed on the wrong sides, which to me is not too much of a problem. Some people had an issue because of the way the rest of the arms are posed because of these switched shoulder pieces. But I don't mind it too much. You can see it if you look real closely. If you have the shoulder hinge joint just right there lined up with the main torso shoulder, which is supposed to be level for most action figures. You can see how the sculpt here is pointing forward. So if this shoulder was swapped with the left and the right, I believe that it would be in a normal neutral position such as this right here. You know, I don't mind so much. It's not really a big problem for me, but some folks have an issue with the swap shoulders. Another QC problem I think is just related to my figure alone is really these loose hip joints here. They're very loose on here, and you can actually wiggle them, and it does provide some issues with posability, especially if you want a straight standing pose. Because of the weight of the upper torso, it does tend to tilt backwards because of the looseness of the hip joints on here. But I don't mind so much because I can actually tighten those joints. Just get some thread, maybe some green thread, and loop it around the peg area on the hip right there to be able to a couple loops to provide friction for the joints, and wouldn't provide that much looseness. So several loops of tightly wound thread in between the lower torso and the hip joint should tighten that up with no problem. The final QC issue I do have with this particular figure is just some paint slop. I think that's paint slop on here. I don't think that's the way the buckle is supposed to be designed or sculpted. Looks like some extra silver or not enough silver, I can't tell, has been gooped on right there. To me it looks like a leaf pattern on the buckle. But I can't tell if that's intentional or not. I'm going to guess it's not. You know, it's just a QC problem there. Now, despite these QC problems, I do like the King Hssss figure quite a bit, and especially the sculpt. I really like the sculpt of King Hssss, and you can see he's a very scaly in his armor design. You can see he's very armored up. He's got all of this scale pattern throughout his body, even in his head for the helmet, and it looks very nice. And of course it's close to the theme of the Snake Men faction. You got the snake-like armor on there, and you can see it's layered on throughout the body, and it looks very cool on here. And just taking a look at King Hssss, starting off with the head sculpt, you could see a very nice looking sculpt on the head and face. It's partially masked, of course, with the helmet, with that nice layered effect on the armor there. Very cool. He's got covering over his eyes, And what's really cool about the eyes, are painted very snake-like. The pupils are very thin and narrow to make it look menacing there, and it's very, very nicely applied. And I also like what's revealed of his face, the sculpt. He's got this very charming smile, and it's very, very cool. And if you read his bio, he's often beguiles his opponents with his charm, and as a heroic character, as it's described in the bio, only to be, I guess, betrayed at the last minute by his vileness there. But very cool. I really like that head sculpt. Moving down to the rest of the figure, especially with the torso here, you can see he's very armored up, and you got that similar layered snake-like pattern throughout his armor. You can see the back here. Now there is a piece of plastic that acts as the armor that goes over the base torso. It's I believe just a basic buck underneath this armor. You can see it's a separate piece of plastic for the armor, but it's non-removable. I believe it's glued down over here at probably 2 points on there. So you can remove the armor if you tear this armor off, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it on there. I have no reason to remove it anyways. But I believe that's just glued right here in this area. But the armor looks very nice, and you have some sculpted detail here going over his chest. What looks like a metallic a mantle, you could say, going over his shoulders, draped across his shoulders. And that's just part of the sculpt, but it's still very nice. It's painted in this dark grayish silver on here, and with a snake emblem that's sculpted on that area, and painted in a lighter green. Very, very cool. And on the arms, you got that same layered texture for the armor there. Very cool. And there's a wash on here. I just noticed it. Darker wash along the arms here and portions of the torso. What looked like a darker gray or darker green, which is pretty cool. Now the gloves here, gauntlets, are really a almost leather-like color. Nice brown color. Very cool on there. And moving down here, you have a different scale pattern on the lower torso there for his underoos, but it still evokes an image of armored, I guess, loincloth or covering there for the lower torso. But very cool that they add a different sculpt on this scaled pattern for the lower torso. And here in the belt area, you got the buckle with what looks like paint goop on mine. I'm not sure if that's intended or not. Doubt it is intended. But it's just a basic belt that's part of the sculpt of the lower torso. Now over here on the legs, you can see what much like the upper torso, you get that nice scale pattern there. So this is a very unique sculpt-wise for this figure. You can see some of the wash as well that's applied on the legs. And the boots are pretty much a typical reuse of the boots. I'm trying to remember where I've seen these boots before. I can't recall off the top of my head. But you got some nice buckle sculpt on there on the sides with some bits of straps showing through, and a nice painted detail for the buckle and straps. Very nice, and what look like hinges on the inner leg of those. Very cool on there. Overall, a very nicely sculpted figure. I really like the sculpt in this guy. Now, going over articulation for King Hssss. The head is on your typical bald hinge joint. You can probably remove the head. It's not that difficult, and you can see the ball joint and the hinge up and down there. So that's kind of cool. So that allows the head to go all the way around, as well as downwards and upwards, but not so much upwards due to the fact of the sculpt on the back of the helmet there. It does limit it a little bit. You can tilt it side to side a bit. The arms can go all the way around at the shoulders, and they can go out about that much and in, and the shoulder joints here are very stiff on my figure. The arms at the biceps can go all the way around. The elbows do bend inwards about that much and that far outwards. No rotation at the gauntlets there, but there is a rotation at the wrist, so you can move the hand all the way around. There is a hinge joint within the armor on the basic torso area, so you can bend the figure slightly downwards at the torso and upwards due to the clearance on the armor there. So that's kind of nice. There is a rotation at the waist that allows the figure to go all the way around at the waist. And the legs at the hip are your typical not DC, but Masters of the Universe Classics hip joints. They're hinged, and they also swivel, so they can bend upwards, not too far upwards due to the sculpt of the lower torso there. It does bend downwards and back, as well as out to the side nicely. There is a swivel at the top of the thigh that allows the leg to go all the way around. The knees do bend, and it's on a single hinge joint about that far back and this far forward. There is rotation at the boot, so you can twist the boot around, probably all the way around on there. And the feet at the ankles do bend downwards, as well as upwards slightly. And there is a pivot, slight pivot at the ankle, so you have a nice posability for the legs. Overall, a really nice figure, just marred by QC issues, mainly the reversed shoulders, which I really don't have a problem with that much, and the looseness of the joints at the hip, which I can actually fix myself, and just a minor paint slop at the buckle that I can probably repaint over. So QC issues that I would probably have to fix. I wish I didn't have to, but not really that big an issue for me to fix though. But still a nice figure overall for the leader of the Snake Men. I almost forgot to show you the alternate body part for King Hssss, I guess the true form of King Hssss here, and how to place it on the figure. It's real simple. You just go ahead and pop off the torso there. You can see the peg for the torso and the peg hole going into the waist. And you simply just pop the alternate, I guess, true form of King Hssss here. And you can see it's a very gruesome and menacing looking figure, and it does articulate at the waist, so that's kind of neat for posability. So really neat, I guess, add on an alternate body part to reveal the true form of King Hssss. And it's not that difficult to remove and replace the original sculpt onto the figure. This is my casual peek into the Masters of the Universe Classics King Hssss action figure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.